Your first time selling a home can come with lots of surprises and possible setbacks. Today we're going to discuss how to prepare for them. Welcome to Breakfast with Bev. We have Kenny, Bev, and I on today. And we're just going to go through some common things as a first time seller that you might experience and kind of our suggestions and ways to prepare for them before it happens. So one of the big things, no matter how excited you are about moving, you will experience surprisingly strong feelings and emotions about the process and about the home. You have memories there. Even if you have your new dream home picked out and ready to go, you'll still have, there's still feelings that come about when you're selling.
I'm going to let you answer that one, Kenny, because I love your
How do you deal with
approach
that?
on this. Because he talks about the word divorce, and it's like, I want Kenny's perspective on this.
No, and it's something to really think about because you've made a house a home, and wherever you're going to move to, your family is going to be there, and that's where your home is at. But you're just having a house. And so at this point in time, what I always like to talk about is that we are preparing your house to be somebody else's home. And so what I mean by that is that if you think about the separation between you and your family to be able to offer the home, the house, to be able to make it to be the next buyer's home as they come in, that you need to really depersonalize the house, be able to really understand that the emotions that you have is depersonalizing as well. And so we talk about staging-wise, going through and taking down all your family photos and depersonalize it in a way as far as having the Curtis family moving out of the house, and now the new family is going to be moving in. So if you take all the family pictures down that you have, and I always like to think of it in this nature, every time a buyer comes in the house, you're going to get an appointment request, and every time that buyer comes through, that is a first date between that new family and your home. And so we talk about it being a divorce situation where you're divorcing your house, and it's really, a divorce is a big deal. It's really emotional, it's stressful for the family, it's stressful for everybody involved, and that's the same thing with selling a home, because you think, oh my goodness, I'm relocating my family. And that's exactly what we're doing, but it's our job at Bev & Co. to be able to assist you with that process, because we do this every day. And it's really a way for us to be able to take the stress factor out of your family and your move process, and really getting your house prepared for that first date, and so that family that's coming in could be able to see the house as their new home.
And not your old baggage, so.
Yeah.
We hide that on first date. You gotta hide it in your house too.
Well, and just a follow-up on that. Yeah. And so you talk about the baggage. One of the follow-ups with that is that's how we prepare the house to be somebody else's new home, not just depersonalizing it, but making sure that your house looks the best it can on that first date. Because you don't want to have, I love that one commercial. It's like, oh, you look extremely casual. It's that you have it gussied up, right? And looking its best, for that way it will be attractive to the new homeowners coming in.
Yeah. And so you kind of touched up on that. Your home is going to need a lot of staging, and so not even just as far as like moving around furniture and stuff, but like he said, depersonalizing and stuff. So just like preparing for that sell, a lot of sellers aren't prepared for the amount of work that they have to do to get their home ready for the market. So you just kind of want to...
Oh, I'm probably the appropriate person for this one, because I'm actually going to be putting my home on the market here soon. And so I'm actually going through the divorce process and going through all the detachment.
Divorce with the house.
Divorce with the house. Oh, yeah. Hopefully I survive the marriage too. Hopefully, as when we get to the other side, to the new house. But with that being said, I have to say, every realtor needs to sell their personal home about every 2 or 3 years, because it is, oh my gosh, it's like you see everything that we deal with every day with buyers and sellers and moving. And if you're like my husband and I, moving does not bring out the best in us. So it's one of those things where, going through and thinning out, like Cheryl said, depersonalizing. We're trying, as Kenny says, guzzy up the property. It's like, okay, we got to get the weeds pulled. We got to get the yard groomed. We got to get our mulch taken care of. We got to get those old leaves in the flower beds that's still sitting there from the winter months. And then on the inside, it's like thinning out. And, I've got Alan touching up walls throughout the house. And, I've got a cleaning service coming in to do a deep clean. And, he power washed out our garage yesterday. And you go through all of those things that in the daily norm you're acceptable of. But we're preparing our home, as Kenny says, for the first date.
Yeah, and so we have people, Bev's talking about the different steps with that, and so we have people that we can recommend for you to be able to assist you with that process about the gussying up. So if you're not a landscaping person, don't feel like that you have to do that. We can get people to be able to help you with that. So we have recommendations always to be able to assist with this. Again, we do this on a daily basis to be able to help people through the process, and that's one of the things that we can do.
And the part about this, though, that I have to say that I am enjoying, even though it's kind of painful, is the fact that the purging out, you do not realize on an everyday basis how much clutter and things you bring into your home. And so this is definitely a great process to go through and say, okay, let's donate this. We don't need this any longer. Let's give this away. This needs to be tossed. That part, I think in the big picture of things, less is more. I think you guys would agree with that people want to see open floor spaces. They want to see some cleaner walls. They want to be able to envision their lifestyle, their things in the home, and how they would function on a daily basis. And so that's where that process of the pre-listing process, as we call it, that grooming phase, the guzzing up phase, is crucial, I think, as far as making that sale happen in a very timely manner and at a top price.
And I think it's important that that you allow us to come in to be able to take a look. So we're letting you know the things that would be important to gussy up and to be able to do that. So you're not spending money and time on something that really is okay to be left there and not having to worry about it, and that we're actually focusing on the right things.
That's an excellent, excellent choice, because you want to do everything that you need to do, but you don't want to do charity work or something that is not going to make a difference in the sale regardless. That's an excellent point.
And so just being open-minded going into the process, that no matter how good of a housekeeper you are, how nice your furnishings are, there's going to be a lot of work to prepare for getting it on the market. So just knowing that up front so it doesn't hit you, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. You will have a lot to do. There's no sugarcoating it.
None. None at all.
Another thing that first-time sellers sometimes aren't prepared for is that a buyer's inspector will turn up many issues. No matter how nice your house is, how diligent you are about servicing everything every year, there will be issues that come up.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first on
Well,
that, Kenny.
let's talk about the stages of the house. So what we're talking about regarding the inspection stage is that we've already went through one negotiation process and we have your house under contract, and so we've come together with terms of price. And so it's very important that we talk about negotiating, and you actually factor in a budget for the inspection process, because conflict happens when expectations differ. And so really there should not be as much conflict regarding these inspections as what necessarily would have to happen as if we budgeted for things. And like Cheryl indicated, there is going to be things that's going to come up on any house. And so if we just factor that into your budget process when you're doing your negotiations on the selling, on negotiating your price with that new buyer, then you kind of are prepared, okay, yeah, if I didn't use that money that I budgeted, then that's fine. It's no different than budgeting while you live in the home for a new roof or a new furnace, because if you're living your home long enough, those things will need to be done. And so the same thing is true about the deferred maintenance and or the things that the inspector finds during the process. And so if you kind of think about it up front and know, okay, I have this expectation that there will be items found during the inspection. And even if you did a pre-inspection, there's some sellers that like to be able to do a pre-inspection to take that worry out of the negotiations later and fixing those things up front that an inspector might find. But here's a little tip for you, is that if you have 6 different inspectors inspect the home on the same day, they're going to find a list of different things. There's going to be differences with those 6 inspectors because so it just doesn't necessarily need to be pre-inspected, but if you budget for it and have that in mind, that knowing that you're going to have some fixes that are going to be done, and there's going to be some surprises that we don't know about regarding a roof leak that obviously isn't shown come through because we're not on our roofs all the time, or the buyer may do a radon inspection, and I'm sure we can talk about what the benefits of a radon inspection would be even for you as a homeowners now at a later time, but there's going to be surprises that come up, and that's okay. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think the key word that Kenny talked about was expectations, because I think if you know up front and you budget ahead, it eliminates a lot of the anxiety and the stress and the worry, and then it's just a matter of working through it. So,
yeah, and so the next 2 things I'm going to kind of lump together because they go the same. So yes, we are for the most part in a buyer's market. No, sorry. We are in a seller's market, so we are getting a lot of high offers, but not every home, just because we're in that type of market, that doesn't mean you're not immune to a lowball offer. Just because your neighbor got multiple offers sold in the first day, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's just buyers out there that are going to put lowball offers regardless. And so just preparing yourself for that if that does happen, and not taking it emotionally. And then a buyer, even if you get a really good offer, buyers are going to have a lot of concessions they're going to want, and they're going to have contingencies with inspections and appraisals and all that stuff, and sometimes that's not something that a seller thinks once you're under contract that's it.
well, I think the thing to keep in mind is that buyers and sellers are looking at it from a different perspective. When you're a seller, you have one mindset. When you're a buyer, you're going to have a different mindset. And I always try to tell my buyer that it's like someday you're going to be on the seller side and you're going to understand how that feels. And so once again, it goes back to expectations. And yes, we are in a tighter market right now. Inventory is lower. But there are also factors that goes into homes pulling different prices. A lot of it's going to be location, schools, floor plan, amenities of the neighborhood, what it includes, how well the home's been maintained, the age of the home, etc. And so it's not just, the market's going great guns and, everybody's getting over full price. That's not the case. And you also have to understand that the buyer pool that is coming into our neighborhood or to our area, they could be locally, they could be from out of town. So they might be experiencing different markets that they're used to, and they're trying to make an adjustment to the market that we're currently in here locally. So it's something where if someone makes a lower offer, I always try to explain to the seller, don't get offended, don't slam the door with a rejection. Just counter back at what you would be willing to accept, because they're testing the waters to try to figure out the temperature of what our market is, and not everybody is aware of what's going on. And some buyers are still, they're probably stuck in a mindset that's maybe 2, 3, 5 years back. But they'll quickly learn that if they do want to buy a home, that they will have to come up to the price if the value is there. Now, on the flip side, some properties in this market, if you actually do a market analysis on them, you will find that maybe some of the prices that these homes are listed at in today's market is a little overambitious, because the sellers do know that it's a seller's market and that there's a shortage of inventory. And at the end of the day, the appraisal process is what will substantiate and come into play if the value being, paid is substantiated by comps that validate that sale. Now, obviously, the market dictates pricing because it's all about supply and demand, but it does have to be realistic where an appraiser can actually support the comparables and justify the price. And Ken, if you want to add to that.
Well, I think the important thing to know is that when the buyer comes through the house, they're getting a lot of opinions from a lot of different places. And so it depends on, like, if first-time home buyer, if this is the first time you're selling, chances are the buyer that's coming through is a first-time home buyer, and they're getting a lot of advice from family, and their family may not be in this marketplace, and their family is giving them advice as far as saying, well, there's no way you should pay full price, and there's, you know, you obviously should ask for closing costs. And if you are in a price range where you're a first-time home buyer, the buyer is going to ask for closing costs, because the lender is required to be able to tell the buyer that the seller with this loan can pay up to 3% of the closing costs for you. And so that's, again, setting the expectations so that way you know to be able to do that. And that's all part of the budgeting process to be able to make that happen. But that's what we're here for, is to be able to kind of walk you through we may get an offer that's $10,000 below your asking price, which is totally, you know, out of the realm. But we'll be able to help you with negotiation. That kind of brings the third step of negotiations. You had it under contract, and now we, get into the process of, inspections. And now we got to the appraisal that I mentioned, as far as the appraisers are looking at the same sold information as we are when we're listing your property, as far as setting that price. And if we push that price and the appraiser doesn't agree with that, now we have the third negotiation that just happened. And so it's very important that we think about, where is this going to end up with the appraiser's side of things, and so we're not pushing the envelope too far with the way the seller's market is right now. So.
Well, the appraisal is a contingency that I don't think a lot of sellers think about. You know, it does have to appraise. They get through the offer and inspections, and they got over full price. And, you know, some sellers get really upset if there's an issue.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to be able to just kind of follow up on what you're saying there, Cheryl, because it's important, because when we come out as Bev & Co. and we give you our opinions, and what's great about our team is that you have multiple CMAs, comparative market analysis, on your home, and we're going to let you know these are the sold prices that have happened in your neighborhood, and these are the same sold prices the appraiser is going to be looking at down the road. And so if another agent comes in and tells you that the price should be $10,000, $25,000 higher than what we are suggesting, you need to understand that that may not be the best thing for you and for your family on you're trying to reach your goals and your expectations to move, because we may get to 30 days later find out that you can't get that price even though a buyer is willing to pay it.
That's absolutely correct. So there's so many different parts and pieces that goes into it, and I think that's where, you know, just laying them all out side by side as the contracts come in, and it's not always, as Kenny said, the highest price. You know, it's a lot of it has to do with timing. You know, as far as, is it a local lender? You know, is it a realtor on the other side of the transaction that is good to work with to help manage through as obstacles might come up? And it's a matter of, you know, getting through the inspection process, because it's not necessarily as hard to get it under contract right now. It's just there can be some surprises and things to manage through that inspection process as well. And it all has
communication is the key about that. Yeah.
Communication is absolutely, expectations and communication is absolutely key. There's no question about that. But, you know, if you're considering, you know, selling your home or buying a home, we're more than welcome here at Bev & Co. to, you know, come and visit with you and just kind of analyze your situation. Tell us what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll be more than happy to visit with you and walk you through those steps and what the process entails, and see if it's something that you feel like is a good fit and a good decision for you to make a move. So.
And next week, we kind of talked about pricing the home and stuff. Next week we're going to jump into, because we have this question a lot with sellers but also with buyers, is how do online estimates that you find online, how do they arrive at those online valuations of your home? So we're going to dive into that next week, because I know that's a hot topic for both buyers and sellers.
Yes, that topic definitely comes up a lot. So, okay. Very good. Well, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Kenny. We appreciate you joining in this morning. And as always, if you have any type of questions about real estate needs or concerns, reach out at Bev & Co. today at House of Brokers Realty. We would be more than happy to put our passion, our pride, and our perspective to good use for you to yield the results you're looking for. Enjoy your day.